Hey there, folks, it's Cozzy here for Pick One, Pack One, and welcome back to our series of Jekk's Bounty on a Budget. We're up to mission number 14, the competition, and once I worked out how I wanted to approach this particular mission, I got real excited. And in a sense, the direction that I want to take it in is hinted by the cards that you'll get for unlocking this particular mission in Combrate Emissary. This is a combo enabler. It allows you to ramp up like crazy by playing an additional power each turn, and that gives you a little bit of a hint of the direction that I want to head in. But first, let's take a look at the mission rules for the competition. If the enemy starts his turn with less than 2 armor, his armor becomes 2. So what that means is, we can't nickel and dime this opponent. We can't do 3 or 4 damage a turn because as they keep gaining armor, well, they're just going to invalidate our achievements. They're going to keep recovering a little bit of health. It's worth noting that our opponent starts on 20 health rather than 25 to compensate for this a little bit. But what this says to me is that I want to be hitting really hard on a handful of turns rather than a low to medium amount over several turns. And if I'm ever trying to look to hit ultra hard in any given turn, well, that makes me think that I'm not interested in playing typical fair Eternal, just going up the power curve with my creatures, but I want to be playing unfair, or I want to be going off with combo decks. And that's sweet, because there are plenty of combo decks that you can reasonably build in Eternal on a budget, one of which is probably one of the best budget decks you can play in the game. So I'm really looking forward to having a chance to showing it to you guys. First up, we're going to be dusting off Clockroaches again. This is almost the same list that I ran a couple of missions ago. The only difference being that I trimmed a Thunderstrike Dragon to add an additional crown of possibilities. Now I know this is tipping me over into legendary card territory, and it's partially breaking the guideline rules that I set up. If you don't have these, no worries. Just play your Thunderstrike Dragons or add in an extra piece of card draw or something like that. The only reason why I've chosen to add an extra one here is because I'm really hoping I get the chance to show just how much this deck can go off if you commit to the legends in it. But it's not needed at all. This adds to more so to the fun level of the deck than perhaps the power level, I think is fair to say. And so if you don't have them, get rid of them. That's perfectly okay. We've seen before that the real element of this deck are the Echo creatures, coupled with your cards like Twinning Ritual and Second Sight. So please, I feel under no obligation. I've bent my rule just because I want to show it off, not because it's needed at all. The other change that I've made is I realized with some of my playthroughs, indeed I even realized it when I was playing it for the video, I'm a little bit short on time, so I've dropped a pair of Cunnings for some extra time sigils to try and make sure I can hit the time for my double time requirement cards such as Clockroach, Twinbrood, Sauropod, and Temple Scribe. I just don't want to get stuck on one time anymore. So that's the Clockroaches deck. You've seen it before in action. I don't think I need to say too much, especially because I want to save time to talk through this new deck. Now, this deck, Stonescar Kallis, I think is probably the most competitive ranked deck you can build on a budget. I know many people, when they start out playing Eternal, probably start out on Rakano Warcry. I know I did myself, because it uses a new mechanic that's relatively unique to Eternal, and it is very competitive and very reasonable to build. If you want to go in the combo direction, then this is the deck that you can build with next to no res whatsoever. So let's take a look. The namesake card of this particular deck is the Bloodright Kallis. And what this is it is a weapon where when you summon it, you sacrifice all of your units, and Bloodright Kallis gets +2/+2 for each unit sacrificed. So this is a token deck, in a sense, that wants to go as wide as possible, so that when you sacrifice your Bloodright Kallis, it's not uncommon to see yourself with a 10-10, 12-12, 14-14 weapon. So let's take a look at some of the units that we use here, and you'll notice a trend. Other than the Oni Ronin, which I popped in because I was running a little bit high on the rares for memory, and so I wanted to to knock down 1 on the Bloodright Kallis. Although when I look at this, where are okay, that's it. So our 8 rares are between the Torrent of Spiders, a pair of Oblivion Spikes, and a pair of Bloodright Kallises. And ordinarily they play 3, so I've trimmed 1 to fit into our rules, and the only Ronin has been what I've added instead. But let's take a look at the other units. We have Grenadin Drone. When you summon it, you get an additional 1/1 Grenadin Drone. So you get additional value so that if you have to sacrifice it for any reason, you're only sacrificing half a card. We have the Slumbering Stone. It doesn't have an on-play ability, but when it dies, you get to play a 2/2 Flying Gargoyle. And it dies in a whole bunch of ways. It'll be fun. We have Dark Wisp. Again, upon dying, you get to draw a card. This is one of the engine cards that allows us just to keep flooding through our deck, drawing new cards, getting whatever we need. And then we have Assembly Line. Yeah, it's a spell, but it creates 3 units, and the units count as discrete units once they're on the battlefield. And so we're creating all of these tokens. What are the benefits of the tokens? Well, first of all, we can use them to combust our opponent. We can sacrifice a unit to kill an enemy unit. And you know what? If I'm sacrificing my Slumbering Stone to create a Vengeful Gargoyle, then I'm getting value, even though this sounds as though it's a value loss card. Likewise, I can devour my creatures. I can sacrifice a unit to draw 2 cards and to get 2 health, again allowing me to draw through and try and find the gas in my particular deck. I can also cast Smuggler's Stash, where I draw 2 units and 2 weapons from the void. Now, to be fair, it's generally the second half of this sentence that matters the most. I want to be drawing my 2 units, drawing 2 weapons rather, more so than drawing 2 units. But there's still a lot of value. And so as we flood the board with our units, Bloodright Kallis gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We can stash it, and then we can cast it all over again. And when you're casting a 10/10 weapon for the second time, your opponent's in trouble. Because we have all of these sacrifice effects, Madness becomes a useful card where we can ready and steal an enemy unit this turn. So we take their best unit, we attack in with it, we do some damage, and then we can bust it to kill 2 of their units. 2 birds, 1 stone. Or we can devour it to use their unit to draw 2 cards and to gain 2 health. And here's one of the unique or unusual mechanisms in Eternal. If you control a unit at the time it dies, it goes into your void, which means we can possibly return it back with our Smuggler's Stash. We have other cards that care about how many units we have in our void as well. We have Torrent of Spiders, where you play a 1/1 Deadly Spider and play an additional spider for every 3 units you have in the void. It's not uncommon for us to be playing 3, 4, 5 Deadly Spiders off the 1 card and it becoming upgrade on Assembly Line. And then finally we have Oblivion Spike, a weapon with very high health, and it gets +1 power for each of your units in the void. The remaining cards, Vara's Favor, useful all-round card. And then this is a card that you earned earlier on going through the campaign, and it's probably the most useful card in the whole of campaign for playing in Constructed, Quarry. You can draw 1 of the top 2 cards from your deck and reduce its cost by 1. You discard the other, which is great because if I draw 2 units, I can put 1 into my yard, which powers up all of my void synergies, and then the other one is 1 cheaper. If it's a weapon that's 1 cheaper or whatnot, then when I cast Smuggler's Stash, I actually get it back cheaper still. So it's a permanent improvement. This has really elevated Stonescar Kallis to the next level. And so ordinarily this is a deck that works with 9 rares. We're using 8 here, so this is the only compensation on the actual competitive deck, and you can comfortably push your way up into Diamond once you learn how to play this well. It is a very competitive deck. The only time that it struggles a little bit is if people are respecting the void and playing things like Steward of the Past or Statutory Maiden, those kind of cards that make your life a bit unpleasant. But when they're not in the meta, Kallis is a phenomenal deck, and it's a great deck at the start of the season too because it is so fast. It just rockets up the ladder because your games are over within a couple of turns. We don't have enough power for this. It's an interesting choice because we could get the additional Find the Way, so we could go turn 1 Time Sigil into Seek Power. We can then cast a Find the Way on our second turn. We can get a depleted power going up to 3, cast another Find the Way or Second Sight. Am I talking myself into it? We have a little bit of time against this opponent, and we have all of the other pieces we need other than an Echo card. No, we can definitely do better than this. We can definitely do worse, but this is a much better hand. We're going to start making some pretty powerful Twinbrood Sauropods if we get the chance. We are short our second Time Sigil, so I'll need to get that very soon with my Find the Way. And we'll get underway the minute they finish having their expository conversation. So my opponent doesn't have a lot of interaction. They really just play a lot of units, really. And so if I'm able to successfully... what do I want to get rid of? They don't have a lot of units with a health of 1, so I think the Snowball might be the least useful. Indeed, if I'm going to be casting units, I'm going to be casting these Twinbrood Sauropods constantly. So I could consider getting rid of the Jotun Hurler. It's probably the least useful card in my hand right now. That'll be for turn 5, 6, 7. I don't expect this to make that much of a difference once I get to turn 7, because I'd rather be playing my extra copies of all of these. Okay, so if I was to play this Time Sigil now, it will be depleted. If I'm to play the Primal Sigil and my Initiate the Sands, I'll still be getting up to 4, so I can still play my Nesting Avisaur on my Twinbrood Sauropod as well as my depleted Sigil, so I think that's my play. I won't lie, I'm a little bit sad that I haven't seen my Crown of Possibilities, because I wanted to show it off. So the one card that they have here that I need to be really worried about is the Plated Crusher. That's the 6 cost 8/8, that if you run out of armor you need to sacrifice it. Am I happy to trade? I think I am. Especially as I get rid of the guy with Aegis, which will be slightly tricky for me to engage with. So I have a couple of choices here. I could cast Dark Return to bring back my Avisaur, to then use it on my Twinbrood Sauropod, so that way I don't get a 5/4 in play, but instead what I get is next turn I'll be drawing 2 1-cost Twinbrood Sauropods. I'll have 6 power, so perhaps I could play my 5 and the 1, that way if I get anything else that benefits the 1 cost, I can use it. Slight delayed gratification, but I actually think that's better. And so you'll remember this when we got the 2 discount for free. You don't need it, guys. This is perfectly capable on its own. I know that my opponent doesn't have a lot of flying, which is great. It means that, of course, as I say that, out comes the flying, but hey, we have a Snowball to deal with it. So what I think I'll do is I'll attack in, see if they want to block. I didn't think they did. We'll use our Snowball. And our expensive Twinbrood that I don't really want to keep that much. And now all of a sudden we have a huge turn where we can just flood the board with 5/4s, assuming we don't draw anything else that's fun. Now why would they be attacking in? Do they have some kind of combat trick that I need to respect? I haven't seen combat tricks in my last playthrough, but I guess we'll see what they've got because I have so many more units to come in. Okay, that's fine. So if I would have known that this was in their list, I could have played around it and actually blocked the 2/2, and that would have been better for me. But as is, it's not the end of the world. So now I need to work out how much I want to save this Dark Return or this Twinbrood Sauropod. The reality is it's a bit of a moot point. We're going to be smashing in anyway. So the only other thing I need to think through is if my opponent's likely to have Harsh Rule. I haven't seen it in their list, but what I'd like to do is to play as though they do have it, because it's an important skill to learn. And this way I have something that I can reload with. There's just not a lot of point in taking a huge amount of risk like that. If we're really lucky, they might double block on the 1 cost. Indeed. Perhaps I won't attack with this one just to force them into that double block. And that way I can get my favourite one back. Again, this doesn't work against a human opponent. This is just me taking advantage of the fact that the AI is an AI. Now we have ourselves some 6/5s. And an opponent who's very soon to be dead. So there you go, folks. It just goes to show how little Crown of Possibilities is needed in this particular matchup. Because we're very comfortable without it. But I tell you what, if you do get the chance to see it, it is a lot of fun. If you have happened to just pick one up randomly, you never know when you get these cards. Then do pop it in. It really is worth it. Just like that, nice and easy. And I get some chests as well. We can put them on YouTube forevermore to be remembered the time that I got a June Phantom. Alright. And now for the Kallis deck, which I haven't had a lot of experience with Stonescar Kallis, to be honest, and it has some very curly lines of play, so I am certain you're not going to be seeing this played optimally. I am also certain that it's probably not going to matter this much, because this deck is very powerful, particularly against this opponent. We have 2 power, stuff to do. Yeah, this is great, and we have the Kallis in hand. I think we're going to have to work pretty... force a habit to say hello to any of my opponents. We're going to have to work pretty hard, and they're going to have an amazing hand to beat us. That's not a bad start, though. That's a very good start, though. That's okay, we got some time. Do I want to double block here? My choice is either to let them attack in and take it, or to double block, and that way I can also use my Dark Wisp. I think I'd rather just save the damage, particularly as I've seen them have a flyer. There could be an argument made for saving them to get my Bloodright Kallis, but I also turn on my Oblivion Spike. I think we might take 1 damage on this turn, so I can play my other Dark Wisp if I don't draw a power. Wow, these flyers. I shouldn't have been so arrogant. Let's see if they're willing to block. I imagine they will. Power? I just want the power so I can set up my next turn as well. Okay, so that's a good return on our favour. We'll be able to at least stop this one from attacking by having 3 assembly line Grenadin. We'll definitely be able to stop this one from attacking. Or do we play the Dark Wisp and combust it to just get rid of the flyer? No, we can do that next turn if need be. Indeed, we could even go a straight 1-for-1 trade with the Bloodright Kallis. No, okay. Oh, do they have that combat trick that we saw before? One that gives everything +1/+1. If they do, my best bet is to triple block here. Then we trade out. I take 6 going to 10. Then I can play another assembly line. Take another 3 going to 7, and I can use my combust to get rid of the flyer. Alright, let's play around it. Otherwise, in this scenario, we can drop a Dark Wisp and use combust to get rid of the flyer. Alternatively, if we play the Bloodrite Kallis, it will be a 4/4. Can kill the flyer, they'll attack in, I'll take 2. Pop it, continue. No, we have better play here. The only bit that I'm sad about is you haven't had a chance to see the combo work with this. Although I'm sure we'll be able to do it. They're on 32 health. Okay, that's sad. It's just a trade. But at least you don't have any more people in the air. We could get greedy playing Quarry, but I don't think it's the turn to do so. And that should stop them from attacking us for the time being. So, we can either play our Oblivion Spike, attack in. We can play our Bloodrite Kallis, sacrificing all these guys, turning this into a 6/6 and attack in. And it also allows us to quarry. The right play is to play the Oblivion Spike here. I'm a little bit sad because I really wanted to show the Bloodrite Kallis, but let's just imagine I did. If I was to play it, on summoning, I sacrifice all of my units, so these guys go to the Void, and this becomes a 6/6, and then I'll also have an additional 3 granite in here. So in my Void, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all of a sudden, this Oblivion Spike will become a 10/5 for next turn, or if I happen to get anything that's involved in the Void, then this will contribute to it, whereas instead they're just sitting here. But I'm much better on playing it safe. But now that we have the weapon, now that we have a board, we have some card draw, this is where the game begins to get very safe and very comfortable for us. I made a slight mistake in this play. I probably should have played my Quarry first and seen what I had access to. And so I have a choice between making a whole bunch of deadly blockers or a torch. I currently have 7 units in the Void, so I'd be making 3 spiders. I can live with that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. This is just me messing around. Like, if I'm playing against a proper opponent, I should be conserving my resources. I just want to show off how sweet this deck is. So we're going to go hard on it. We're going to, first of all, make as many drones as we can. We're not going to attack with my 7/2, because I'm going to be attacking with my 6, 12, 14, 14, 16, 16. And then I'm going to make 6 spiders, just for change. And that's Kallis, guys. How do you deal against a 16/16 weapon unless you have some kind of direct destroy weapon effect? You're not going to deal with it with damage. And so, yeah, it's a sweet deck. I'm glad I had a chance to still use the Kallis. I was getting sad there that I didn't get to show either of the cool combos, but it's sweet, folks, and it is so budget. It is so very, very budget. Let's just quickly go back to show you, because if you only have a small amount of cash and you want to play Constructed, this is one of the best decks to do it with. The actual list, like, this is a list that managed to go, I think it was top 10 or so at the most recent competition on the Sundays, the ETS, is this. Get rid of 1 Oni and add 1 Bloodrite Kallis, and there's your deck. So simple, guys. So much fun. You get to do some really unfair things, and very enjoyable deck to play. Anyway, folks, I've been Cozzy running through the competition. Enjoy your new Combray emissaries, and I look forward to seeing you guys in just a moment as we go through our last 2 missions. We're almost done of Jekk's bounty. Have a good one.